On today's Locked On Senators, it's game day. The struggling New York Islanders come for a visit against the Ottawa Senators.
And we have a very special SensCentral Citizen. It's Menno Versteeg. He tells us all about his love for the Sens and music career intertwining.
Not only that, we also have an update on the Senators' sale. Gary Bettman has spoken. All of it's brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook, the official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn today to get started. This is the Locked On Senators podcast. It's your team every day.
Your Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
I'm Jake Sanderson, and you're listening to Locked On Senators podcast.
I'm Tim Stützle, and you're listening to the Locked On Senators podcast.
Welcome inside episode 721 of the Locked On Senators podcast. I'm Ross Levitan on the outskirts of enemy territory in Winnipeg, Manitoba, alongside Brandon Piller up in the Blue Mountains on Wednesday, January 25th. And Pilsy, Gary Bettman has confirmed the data room is open for the Ottawa Senators and applications are flying in to purchase the club.
Here we go. Let the sale begin. It's the Ottawa Senators sale, and this is going to be interesting, Ross. We've heard so many rumors, so many potential buyers, all these things. Now we're going to start to get some real evidence of who is legitimately interested in buying this team, and this is where things will hopefully start turning a corner.
Show me the money. That's the phase we're at right now. The bidding process has begun, and now we'll get the contenders from the pretenders all weeded out. And hey, Garriock said right away when the team was officially put up for sale, look for mid-February. So we've got that circled on our calendars. We're inching closer to the month of February. Pilsy, if this sale goes down when we're in Cabo, that would be all time. But if this sale goes down, we're going to be immediately breaking it all down. The finances and what it means going forward, because we know the Senators in somewhat of a holding pattern as it stands right now. But Pilsy, the one thing that I found interesting, Gary Bettman, and he was speaking to the media, by the way, in Montreal ahead of the Habs and Bruins game last night. The quote is, the people who have filed applications have begun to do their due diligence. So my understanding is the process is underway. More than a dozen groups have signed non-disclosure agreements, but it doesn't mean that they've all received access to the data room. The potential owners were heavily vetted before giving any approval. So I'm curious when the date is, because they've all been given a date for the bidding to finalize. But right now, they're all sneaking around the Sens finances. They're looking at ticket sales over the last 10 years. They're looking at the sponsorship deals. They're looking at the media deals. They're looking at the debt that Eugene Melnyk had with the Ottawa Senators. So it's open heart surgery right now for this organization, and we'll see who can stitch it up and make us all feel full once again.
Yeah, I mean, with the way the Ottawa Senators on-ice product is, who wouldn't want to buy this team for hundreds of millions of dollars?
I mean, all you have to do is show people the photo of Brady Tkachuk and Tim Stützle yesterday at practice, and that just pulls at your heartstrings.
I didn't see it. What is it? What's the photo?
Oh, we'll pull it up right now. Pilsy, why don't we tease Menno Versteeg coming up? Because I know you're fired up about a few topics we got into with him. It was a great conversation, 35 minutes, but we couldn't say no. We were just having a great conversation. It was the perfect mix. How did you describe it? Where he's a diehard fan, but he was also curious to get opinions on from us.
Yeah, and that's why we love doing the SensCentral Citizens, because, I mean, we cover this team on a daily basis, so it's easy for us to just kind of chat about it. But, I mean, other people, they got stuff going on in their lives, if you can believe it or not, Ross, and they're not able to watch the Sens every day. So he was someone that he's clearly an informed fan, but he was still curious about a lot of things that he was thinking about. And he mentioned it. He doesn't have a lot of diehard Sens fans in the music kind of group and area that he's in the industry. So he was stoked to get our opinion and have some real hockey chat. So you guys are going to love it.
And head over on Instagram. Menovers is his handle. We'll put it in the link here as well. And tell him that there's no better atmosphere than Sens Hawks February 17th. Can we get Menno in attendance? That's the goal. So make sure you go find him on social media and let him know you loved having him on Locked On Senators. Pilsy, here is my pitch to buy the Ottawa Senators, or what I would show someone who actually has the pockets deep enough. Who doesn't want to be a part of this?
That looks fun. That looks fun. Sign me up.
That looks fun. You know what? Put your logo on the helmet, get your business some visibility, and just be a part of the good vibes, even though this team can't seem to string wins together. But all is forgotten when they have 3 days off, Pillsy. It's been a while. Coming up, we'll have a full game day preview. But let's get to Menno here on Locked On Senators.
This episode is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. It's our new sponsor, Ross, our presenting sponsor, and we are fired up about this one. The NFL playoffs are here. The conference finals weekend is coming up. Some big matchups. You got to get ready for this one and get ready with the #1 sportsbook in America. It's FanDuel. And if you're new to FanDuel, hey, that's even better. Ross and I are new to FanDuel as well, and I can tell you we're going to be taking advantage of this deal. New customers, if you join today, you get $150 in free bets guaranteed. I love hearing free bets. I love hearing guaranteed. Those are awesome. And all you have to do is place your first $5 bet. Just sign up today at FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel has all your favorite bets from money line to point spread to player props. Plus, you can even combine your bets for a bigger payout with same game parlay. Ross, I know that a lot of the Sens fans, myself included, are going to be hitting the Brady Tkachuk shots over in this game. I'm not so sure about the money line. We'll think about that for a little later here, but I know I'm going to find some props to have some fun watching this game. So you can all check it out on an app that's safe, secure, super easy to use. Don't miss out. Place your first $5 bet to get $150 in free bets, win or lose. That's the beauty at FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
Today's episode is also brought to you by, they're back, Shawarma Palace, our great friends at Shawarma Palace. We love our friends at Shawarma Palace. Pilsy, this isn't even a part of the ad. We were legitimately talking and planning our trip to Ottawa coming up in 3 weeks. And I started off, I said, Pilsy, 3 weeks tomorrow, you and I are going to be eating Shawarma Palace. And I literally saw you wipe drool off of your chin. You couldn't help yourself. And I don't blame you, because Shawarma Palace is the best food in Ottawa, period. Exclamation mark. Actually, underline it twice and make sure you tell all your friends about Shawarma Palace as well. Dine at any of Shawarma Palace's 9 locations in Ottawa right now. And I don't even know if I'm allowed to say this yet, but it's soon to be 10. They're going to have one in the food court at the Saint Laurent Shopping Mall. So stay tuned for that coming up. But right now, you can go near Baseball Town, Gladstone area at Bank Street. You can go even to our home location, I'll call it, down on Rideau Street by Augusta. That's my favorite shop. They're in Orleans. They're in Hunt Club. You're never too far from a Shawarma Palace. But if you're too lazy to go to a Shawarma Palace, I can relate. And in those cases, order on Uber Eats. It's that easy. And make sure you let them know that Locked On Senators sent you. You'll probably get an extra scoop of garlic in there if you do. As we know, it is the Levy lock is the extra garlic on your chicken shawarma platter. You can also get the chicken shawarma wrap. I know Pilsy loves that. And make sure that you let your family in on secret, because if you get that platter, is it for you or is it for your family? I'll let you decide. But one thing is for sure, and that's Shawarma Palace is the best. You're among family at Shawarma Palace. And remember, Sens game days taste better at Shawarma Palace. All right, here he is. This week's SensCentral Citizen, it's Menno Versteeg. All right, we now welcome this week's SensCentral Citizen. It's Menno Versteeg joining us from the heart of enemy territory in downtown Toronto. What's going on, Menno? Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me. I would say long-time listener, but I kind of just got into the podcast this year, and I love it.
Same with you for your music, man.
That's I heard that, so I didn't feel as bad when I heard you just started digging in. So there you go.
Hey, I've been a Hollerado fan for a while, so just gonna toss that out there.
Yeah, but you had no idea who Menno was. I told him that he was coming on, and then when I put 2 and 2 together, you're like, "Whoa, Hollerado! That's amazing."
Yeah, That is fair. We'll get into definitely your music career and everything, but I mean, we got to start this off like we do every SensCentral Citizen. Menno, how did you become an Ottawa Senators fan?
I mean, I grew up in Manotick, Ontario. 30 minutes outside of Ottawa. A seriously strong Leafs stronghold, also. And I grew up a Montreal Canadiens fan, and I love the Habs. But obviously, when the team came to Ottawa, it was so exciting. And even though they were losing, the tickets were cheap. I loved going to games at the old Civic Center, and I was just a kid, and I caught the bug. I also played minor hockey for the Hollerado Senators, and that always felt nice. And I remember when the team came, we changed our jerseys to Sens colors, and I was just it really got me into being a diehard fan at a young age.
So many ways I can go with this one, but since I grew up playing against the Hollerado Senators, did you in your youth think like, hey, that means I could get called up, man? I gotta get trained.
Yeah. No, I wasn't that naive.
I would have been. What do you remember about the Civic Center? Like, I've been there for 67's games. I just missed it. My first Sens game would have been like 97, 98 when they were in the new building. But what was that atmosphere like with such a small crowd, but for an NHL game?
It was wonderful. I mean, I was just a kid. I remember you could like go to the stairs and meet the players coming out after. And it was, I don't know if you can still do that, but it was like you could do that after every game. And then the blowouts. I remember them losing, I think it was to the Quebec Nordiques, like 10-2 or something.
No.
And great fond memories.
So when you were playing hockey, what position did you play, and who would you liken your game to? What style of game did you play?
Oh, wow. I was a small guy growing up. I didn't really grow until I kind of like got out of playing competitive hockey. Okay. So I really like had on the Canadiens, I loved Matt Naslin growing up, and do you guys remember him? He was fantastic. Oh, yeah. And then when the Senators came to town, as I got older, Alfredsson became my favorite player, and I like to think that I like to pass first and heads up play and team player, and Alfredsson just became a hero of mine. Which I have a funny story about meeting your heroes.
Let's hear it.
Do I just jump right into it?
Go for it.
So are you familiar with the Juno Cup?
Yeah. Yep.
A bunch of for listeners who aren't, it's part of the Juno Awards, Canada's Canada's Grammys, because it's all a load of. Can you say shit?
That's cool.
On the podcast? I
guess we can now. Yeah.
But a really fun time, and all the musicians get together. And there's a part of it where it's a charity hockey game where musicians who are involved with the Junos get to play against like hockey greats. And both teams are usually pretty hungover. And so one year was in Ottawa, and Alfredsson joined. So I chose number 11 in his honor, and we played against each other, and it was so fun playing against him. Just an absolute dream come true, and he was so gracious. And he let me get around him on a rush because he knew what a big fan I was. And I scored a goal at the Civic Center. It was like one of those great moments. And by the end of the game, like, me and Alfie are just like best buds, right? So I go up to him and we do like soccer style, and we trade jerseys. My like Rockers number 11 for his Alfredsson jersey number 11. And it was just one of those incredible moments. And then, I took mine to the room. Like, I'm going to cherish it forever. Everyone's like, you're getting it framed. I'm like, oh, maybe I'm going to get it framed. And then, we're hanging out, having beers in the dressing room later. And someone from the other room who was cleaning up, he comes in with my jersey. He's like, I found this in the trash. Oh. He's like, do you want it back? Whoa, which I found that very, very funny.
Oh man, I thought Alfie would have framed that one. You got to be sitting there thinking, yeah, Alfie's probably thinking the same. I got to frame this Menno Versteeg jersey number 11 with the Rockers, but no, it didn't make it in the suitcase, I guess.
Where's your Alfredsson jersey right now?
It's at the bottom of my hockey bag. I wear it when I play shinny.
So now you were mad at him, eh? You're like, I would have gotten the same if you showed some respect to mine.
You know what? I love that I wear it when I'm playing shitty. It's like, it's a great story, and it was honestly one of the fondest memories that music has brought me. There's been a lot of great connections through playing music and hockey. Yeah, so many great connections, and that's one of the fondest.
Did I hear that you and Hollerado have played the CTC before?
Oh yeah, a bunch of times.
Nice.
It was really fond memories from that too. Early on, when Hollerado was starting to get going, they used to play our music over the PA a lot, Americanorama and Juliet. And then I think because of that, Zach Smith, he tweeted at us. I guess he became a fan from just like not focusing on the game and listening to whatever music was between him winning faceoffs. And we started a torrid text affair and eventually became buds and hung out in real life. And we met up at a music festival. He's an NHL player that has really great taste in music. And I'm not judging anyone's taste in music, but what I've heard is that a lot of the European players love techno and like electronic music, and most of the North Americans listen to country. I love both those genres when they're done well. Don't get me wrong, but Zach told me that there's very few players who are into like indie rock bands, and he really had a really deep knowledge. Like he knew bands like P.S. I Love You from Kingston, really deep indie rock cuts. And we became buds over that and went to some music festivals. So getting to know him was super awesome. And I don't know if he had anything to do with it, but we got to play in a box a few times at the rink, and they spoiled the hell out of us. And we got the whole box, and we could invite all our parents to come. And it's one of those parents are like, "What the hell are you doing with your life?" And you're like, "Oh, actually, there's a box for us at the Canadian Tire Center, and you guys can all come and we watch the game, and there's free hot dogs."
Shawarma Palace.
And the parents are like, "Wow, now you've made it."
Yeah, all those years in the garage are now worth it.
Yeah.
Well, you've actually uncovered a mystery here too, because our good friend who runs the @Sens Prospects page, which is a must follow on Twitter and Instagram, he reached out when we mentioned you were coming on next week, and we're pulling it up right here for anyone watching on YouTube. Hollerado, Menno Versteeg rocking a Zach Smith shirt for the first few songs of a concert, and I looked up the date of this. This was one day before the conference finals in 2017 when the Sens were playing the Pittsburgh Penguins. So you and Zach Smith are buddies probably before this, I would imagine.
Yeah, long before this. Basically, I think it was in his first early seasons with the Sens where we became buds. And as I said, such a good guy. And when you get to know someone, of course they become your favorite player. It's just you're just so proud of him, and got the opportunity to sit in a box with his family while he scored a goal at the CTC.
Nice.
And I was hugging all of them and having a tear. They're like, "Who's this guy?" But it's just there's a pride in that, and living vicariously through someone that it's always a good feeling. So yeah, that tour. A couple days later, we were playing in Waterloo, and it was the final game. Was it a game 7 where it went into overtime and Phil Kessel?
Overtime.
Yeah.
Say that name on this show though.
Oh my God!
But you can't say Chris.
So yeah, that overtime, that really, really sad overtime where Kessel, did he take a dive and draw a penalty, or did he take down? It was I can't remember.
He took a few that series for sure.
Yeah. And we had the most patient fans in the world because the overtime was on when we were supposed to be on, and we just didn't go on stage. And we came out and told everyone we're going to be backstage watching the overtime. I hope that's okay. And everyone seemed okay with it. So.
Everyone's sitting there waiting. They're like, "Okay, it's overtime. It's going to be over soon." "Oh, actually, guys, double overtime. Just hang out, get a couple beers, go to the washroom. We'll be back soon. Don't worry about it."
Yeah. It's always. I mean, when it's a home game, it's a funny thing that bands have to contend with. It's like a Canadian touring challenge. It's when there's a big game of the team in that city. Chris Murphy's got a great story. Chris Murphy, who's my bandmate in Anyway Gang, but his day job is Sloan for the last 200 years. I think he's played in that band.
Decent.
But he's got a great story. This shows how old they are. which I'm allowed to tease him about apparently, is that they were playing the Jays World Series win. They had a big show in Toronto, and they're like, I know, like they were supposed to go on like during the game. They're like, we'll just push it back to after the game, and then everyone can pay attention to us, and there'll be this big party. So everyone's at the venue watching the game and hanging out, and then the Jays win, and they're about to go on and celebrate with everyone, and everyone just pours out of the venue and goes onto the street to party.
Oh, damn.
Hey, that actually brings me into my next question, which was how, when you were especially on the road, are you still touring right now with Anyway Gang?
I mean, vague question. Like, we'll do some shows, you know, if it's a cushy enough accommodations for us old geezers.
Well, when you were in the heart of like every day, different venue, different spot, how were you following the team? Because you sound like you're not just here to wear the hat. Like, you follow this team pretty closely.
I do. I mean, I watch when I can on my computer. I just this year got for the first time the Sportsnet thing.
Nice.
So that's always nice to have. And you know, sometimes if it's all I got, I'll just follow on my phone.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, Twitter's a huge help for that, especially us out of towners, eh?
Yeah, definitely. Where do you live?
I used to be in Halifax. I'm in Winnipeg now.
Oh, nice. Oh,
Yeah.
man, that was a disaster on Saturday, eh?
Oh my God. And I hear about it all day at work the next day. It's tough.
Oh, I bet.
I was
They're
in the
great
crowd.
fans. They really are. The Winnipeg fans are amazing. And
Yeah, they're awesome.
They're not jerks like the Leafs fans can be. I really love the Winnipeg fans. And
Because not only this Saturday, Menno, they lost 5-1 in Winnipeg before Christmas, and I had my Sens jersey on.
oh, wow.
My fiance, I made her wear a Sens jersey. She's a born and bred Winnipegger, so that was a big moment. I was like, God, this team, they're on the up and up, and they got absolutely hammered 5-1 with the Jets' backup goalie in, and both teams are missing a bunch of guys, but that was tough. So you're Manotick's finest. Your wife's from Ottawa as well. Am I not mistaken?
Yeah, Annie grew up she grew up in Ottawa South.
Okay, so my question, and for anyone who doesn't know, if you type in Menno Versteeg on Google, it says, who is Annie Murphy's wife, or husband, rather? Is that tough? I mean, you got a pretty illustrious career yourself.
Yeah, there's pros and cons to all that stuff,
Yeah,
but we're very, very supportive of each other. That's the main thing here.
Well, I mean, you helped write a song for Schitt's Creek. Of course, Annie was a lead in Schitt's Creek, but I'm getting somewhere with this. Now, we've seen Sens logos appear in different areas in Hollywood. Did you guys try to get a Sens logo in Schitt's Creek? Or I know that you and your band, like, that was a moment for our little fan base.
Oh, I never really thought about that. No.
We thought earlier, man. Come on.
I tend to stay out of it.
No, all good. So Zach Smith's shirt, do you have any Sens jerseys or just the Alfie one?
I actually have, the Alfie one, but I also have an Alfie one that we were on tour in China, and we met these Canadian guys who owned a bar, and the guy's business that he made a ton of money on was making bootleg official jerseys, like
Classic.
super duper, like come with a hologram, like everything identical to the ones that you buy. And he would, sell them illegally, like a giant crime, this guy, that his job was. And I'm not going to name any names, and I'm pretty sure he's been shut down since. This was in 2009. But we showed up, and he had made us all like NHL jerseys of our favorite teams. And so he made me an Alfie one, and I was like pretty psyched about it. And I wore it to like a Sens game in Ottawa. And the second I walked into the arena, I realized, and he had said this to us, that some of them are like, they just don't quite get it right at the factory. It was like a totally different color of red than everyone else's jersey. Like, it just like, I feel like they had like leftover Flames red or something.
Right.
And like at the factory when they were like bootlegging a Ginla jerseys, and they're like, this will do. We'll just make a bunch of these. So I have a bootleg Sens jersey that's completely the wrong color of red. You wouldn't notice when you just wear it.
Right.
In China?
But when you go to the rink, it sticks out. Everyone's kind of looking at you like, where did you get that?
That's hilarious. I mean, that is a big business over in China, doing things like that. And they are convincing, I guess. you weren't really thinking about the Pantones at the time. So that's definitely fair. Now, Menno, let's get to this team's current roster here. Who are you most excited about on this year's squad of the Ottawa Senators?
I really do. Honestly, despite everything, and I agree with you guys. Just to go back to your last episode, I almost showed up wearing a tank top, drinking a Tank House beer.
Yes.
That was a depressing episode.
But I really love the team. I truly do. I find them they're nice. They seem like nice boys. And it's hard to pick a favorite, but I love the captain. He's amazing. Brady is he's just such a good guy. The way he interacts with the kids in the community, and then the way he'll deck a guy with a smile on his face, and he'll take it back, and he doesn't get lippy, but he'll get a bit chippy. He's just a wonderful captain. But all the way around, I love the young rookies. Timmy's amazing to watch. And I can't wait to see some of the kids coming up, the really young ones. Ridley Greig.
We're going to see next game. Yep, that'll be a big one, his NHL debut.
But yeah, it's a good, fun, young team.
Definitely.
Are you going to ask me to pick a least favorite?
No.
Absolutely. Let's go.
If you've got one locked and loaded,
I
sure.
love them all. I've been disappointed in Shabbat lately. I feel he's got all the talent in the world, and I feel like there's an element. Can you hear the dog squeaking away? Is it being super noisy?
Hey,
we're sorry. We're used to it.
Dogless dog person. Whose dog is that?
It's Roger. Here he comes. He's a new addition.
No, that's great for the views. That's awesome. Roger, what kind of dog?
Roger, come say hi.
Yeah, Roger, what's up, man?
Come be on the Sens podcast.
Oh, yeah. Let's go. Hey, that's a big boy.
Yeah, he's a big boy. He's sweet. Anyway, so big boys. Thomas Shabbat. Big boy.
He's coming for my job, eh, Pills? Segue.
And like Roger, I think he doesn't, he's got some growing to do as a team player or something. I feel like it's kind of about him sometimes as opposed to about the team. And I feel like he doesn't put the effort in. And I think it's okay for us to hold players like that to a higher bar. Yep. I think that's an okay thing to do. And so it's not that I'm disappointed and he's a great addition to the team, but I just kind of expect more out of him.
Yeah, I think that's super fair. I think if I'm going to play the role of Shabbat defender, I think it's an organization issue because they play him so much and have for the last 4 years.
Yeah.
I don't blame him for being like, hey, I got to conserve my energy if I'm playing 29 minutes every single game. I think it's more so they've got Jake Sanderson coming up. They've got Eric Brandstrom, who's definitely capable of playing more than 11 minutes a game. It just feels like they rely so heavily. And a part of that is they don't score first enough. And when you're chasing the game, you're like, oh, on paper, Shabbat's my best defenseman. Yeah. I need to play all the time. But I get what you're saying. Like, as a fan watching the game, it feels like when the puck gets to his stick in the offensive zone as well, the play slows down. And it just takes that extra half a second. And, I mean, when he's making $8 million, he's up there. I think it's fair to have a critical eye when you're watching him play. Pilsy, where are you at with Shabby?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of Sens fans, Menno, would echo the same statements. Thomas Shabbat has been this team's #1 defenseman for a long time, and it's been an up and down season with a lot of eyes on Thomas Shabbat, and it hasn't been his great effort. And I mean, him smashing his stick over Travis Hamonick's face on the bench. I don't know if you caught that one.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
That kind of embodies how this season is going for the Ottawa Senators.
Yeah, I really appreciate you guys' perspective. Like, I didn't expect you guys to be as sympathetic as you are, and I like that you're giving me that different perspective. I really like that because it's so true. Like, asking someone to play that much and have that much of the weight on their shoulders, that's a really big ask. Definitely. So what do we do from here?
That's $1 million question. Yes. But if I just pull it up right now, Thomas Shabbat is 4th in the NHL in ice time per game. And I mean, he has been for the last number of years. If I go back, let's say DJ Smith era, so from 2019, #1 in time on ice per game. It goes Number 1, Thomas Chabot. Number 2, Drew Doughty. And that's only 4 seconds behind. But then the gap between those two is a whole 37 seconds per game, which doesn't sound like much, but multiply that by how many games?
Yeah.
220 games. All of a sudden, that's a few hours extra he's on the ice. So
Yeah.
I find, usually we're not that sympathetic. You heard yesterday's podcast. We were extremely pointed in our comments because we do this every day. This is going to be episode 721, and we haven't seen a single playoff game as a team. Like, it's about time that they turn the corner, and you would think we'd be all over the top defenseman to be just that. But I'm at least curious to see what a month would look like where he's playing 22 to 24 minutes each and every game. I think it could be beneficial.
I love that.
Last week they took him off the top power play unit, which is kind of a 1A, 1B, because when you have Giroux and DeBrincat on the
yeah, exactly. I agree with that. It's two pretty strong power play units. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, but they had Sanderson out there with Timmy, and I think when your best player or offensive catalyst is on that unit with Brady, then that's probably your top unit. So I'm curious to see how this season finishes out, because DJ Smith was a defenseman himself. You'd think he'd have a bit better of an idea of how to manage the minutes, but I'm frustrated as well, man. I noticed that when the puck's on his stick, things kind of slow down, and it can be perceived as a lack of effort for sure.
I'm so curious. I mean, you guys are so knowledgeable about hockey. I'm not just blowing smoke. Since getting into the podcast, I've been pretty hooked on it, just to really get my updates on all these really good perspectives. I'm really curious to know what you think is the plan here. Do you? Is it an option? I would hate for them to have to move one of these great players that they got. I love Giroux. He's local, and what a captain on the ice too. He's another great captain and such a team player. Rarely makes mistakes. So great on the face-off. These extra effort plays that work. He's just all around. I just love him. You can't get rid of him. You can't get rid of DeBrincat. He's young and these flashes of brilliance. Norris when he's healthy, oh my God, I hope that doesn't become a thing. But another amazing young player, Timmy, obviously not as locked in. Is there someone that can be moved? Is that even what do the experts think here?
Elsie?
Well, this is something we've gotten into on the show, and the thing is, the Ottawa Senators have been rebuilding for so long. They've been collecting all these draft picks, all these prospects, all this young talent, and they have kind of a fully loaded availability in prospects they can move, because there's only so many NHL spots, and you just named off 6 guys that those guys aren't going anywhere. They're so good. They're locked in. We love where they are. So what we feel they need to do is start using all those extra assets, and no disrespect to those guys, but it's going to be tough for them to crack the lineup. So they kind of are extra assets, guys down in Belleville, prospects. Pool a bunch of them together and try to get big talents that you can add on the back end, especially. They need another top 4 defenseman.
They just
use some of those prospects you have, and even if you feel like maybe it's a high price to pay, this is what this team needs, and ultimately I think a lot of fans would agree that could be the missing piece that at least gets this team out of the bottom 10 where they've been stuck recently. So that's kind of the idea, is use the extra assets this team has to acquire another top 4 defenseman.
Is Talbot worth anything? Because he can be too good sometimes, and I don't want him to ruin a good tank.
There's a Sens fan right there.
And would is he tradable? Is that an option? Would anyone want him? Is that a thing?
Yeah, I mean, let's take a look at who stole his job last year. What did Marc-Andre Fleury go for? He went for a second that could become a first.
Yeah.
I think that would be a little bit high. Obviously, Fleury has the pedigree of being a Stanley Cup champion, even though he sat on the bench and watched Matt Murray bring it home 2 out of 3 of his cups. But that aside, I think you could probably get a third for him. But then the question becomes, Menno, because I'm not doing this again next year where we stink. I need them to at least then have a plan at who's going to be the starting goalie next year, because we're super high on Anton Forsberg. He did a great job.
I loved him.
He was awesome last year. He was the more shots he got, the better he was. This year, it's up and down. But by all accounts, he's the hardest worker on the team, and he's definitely got a spot on the roster, in my opinion, as the backup or a 1B. But you have to have a guy who can eat games and be consistent. And the inconsistency of Talbot, you said it, That Boston game during the holidays, he was ridiculous. There's other games so far this year where he's stolen points for Ottawa, but then there's been too many where he's given them away completely. So you need to at least balance that. But a team who's in the playoffs, they could be like, hey, we've got our guy, kind of like Minnesota did last year with Talbot. Like, we've got our guy, but do we trust him? And then in that case, then you go out and you can get a Cam Talbot who's an expiring contract, and that's where it really becomes a deal that could be worth moving. However, I think you're going to get like a third rounder back, and then all of a sudden you look over and Philip Gustafsson's first in the NHL in save percentage, the guy they traded for Talbot. So,
oh my God, that's so. Oh no, who's the guy that was the third goalie that they traded?
That was Philip Gustafsson.
That was him.
Yeah,
like the third goalie this year who played some game, who won a game against.
Mad Sogard, the Great Dane. The Great Dane, we call him.
Is he talking about my guy, Magnus Hellberg? He was here for one game at the start of the year.
That's who I'm talking about. What happened to him?
There wasn't enough room to keep him around, and I was on the hype train, and I was saying, you got to keep this guy around. He's a good insurance policy. It's not going to cost you much. I think he's NHL ready, but unfortunately, he was just a guy to fill in the gap while other goalies got ready here. But none of us were anticipating that these goalies would struggle. We all thought in the offseason the Sens finally figured out their goalie problems, and here we are a couple months later, worried about this once again.
But we love doing this, right?
I mean, it's what we do, yes.
Hellberg has an .875 save percentage since beating Ottawa. So we can pump the brakes a touch, but again, he would have been an option. It's just a matter of, and Pilsy and I talked to Matt Sogard, who's kind of the up and coming in Belleville. He's dealing with a few injuries right now, but he told us, he's like, man, practically, you just can't have three goalies on the same roster for practice. It just doesn't make sense. That's where you get into a difficult situation when you have three guys and one needs waivers. See, just got claimed off of waivers, and there's nothing you can do about it. On the flip side, that's how Ottawa got Anton Forsberg, was grabbing him off waivers, so it's a bit of give and take there, but that kind of just underlines the importance of needing a number one goalie that Ottawa was so spoiled with Craig Anderson for a decade. And now looking back, hindsight 2020, they could have just kept Craig Anderson. He's still kicking out saves left and right.
I know, right? I really like Buffalo.
Me too.
They're a fun team.
Yeah, they really are. They're fun to watch. And yeah, they have that. Seems like I don't know their players as intimately, but they have that grit that the Sens, that I like about the Sens too. When the Sens are being the Sens, I love.
Yeah,
100%, and that's kind of what we're all holding on to, because for decades the Senators were kind of the gold standard of Canadian teams. There were no cups coming to Canada regardless. So you look who made the playoffs the most, and Ottawa went 11 straight years making the playoffs and didn't miss back-to-back years until 2018-19 from when they first made the playoffs in 1997. And now, Menno, this might really blow your mind as a guy who used to go to the Civic Center. That gap from inauguration till they made the playoffs for the first time was 5 years.
Oh my!
This is about to be number 6.
Longer. How is that possible?
And Pierre Dorion as GM, and again, there's some extenuating circumstances. There's good, there's bad, there's everything. Only Garth Snow has missed the playoffs 6 straight years with the same team and kept his job. So I don't know where we're at right now, but it's almost darkest before dawn in a sense.
Yeah.
New owners are coming, and I feel like that's kind of the invigoration that we can have as a fan base, that there will be a new dictator around, and hopefully that helps things.
That excites me, and the idea of a new arena in a place where people can walk to it and get that place full every night, and really well designed. Like, I went to the newish Detroit arena recently to see the Sens in Detroit, and what a different fan experience it is than the Canadian Tire Center. What's it even called now?
Yeah, that's still the Canadian Tire Center. Yeah.
For now. It's got like 7 different names.
So, but it was amazing. There was like a lot of those, like kind of how the new stadiums have, like really like loungy, mingly places where you can watch, and even has screens in there with some of them with sound, and like just like a great, you could like really walk around, and it was such an amazing experience. And if we could build a rink that is just a pleasure to go to, that we could fill every night, I think that's half the battle there too.
100%. Can we pencil in Anyway Gang music where it is on Instagram? Anyway Gang. Can we pencil you guys in to help open the Farm Boy house at LeBreton Flats?
Farm Boy Barn. It's got to be the Farm Boy Barn for us. Yeah.
100%. Please, please, please. We would absolutely love to.
That's awesome. Menno, final question for me. You just mentioned Detroit. What other memories do you have, or anywhere in particular where you've seen the Sens on the road that really stands out?
That, I think, is the only Sens game I have caught outside of Ottawa. So many times on tour, like a day off, and we like see if it will line up, and we miss it by a day or something, because it's really hard to get those schedules to work. But yeah, as far as I can tell, I think the only place I saw them, maybe in LA once I saw a Sens game, but
that was a win though, right? That was the 6-3 win where it was all special team. Was it this year you went in Detroit or
no,
a couple?
It was the last game of last year in Detroit. So sometime in April, even everyone had given up by then. Both teams.
Yeah, at that point, it's like as tank battle as it gets. Wait, you definitely won that game too. Yeah. That would have been 5-2 win. I'm always on top of this stuff.
Did we win that one?
That was
I seem to remember it as a loss, but maybe I was even just going for Detroit because I was hoping.
You're cheering for the tank.
And then we didn't even use the pick. But yeah, that was the Mathieu Joseph hat-trick game where he got the empty netter, and it was kind of his welcome to the stage moment. But no, that's awesome, man. Man, this was great. We didn't even get into your music as much as we wanted.
That's boring.
No, we got to get you back on, man.
I got a final question. It's kind of similar to Ross's, but before that, I just want to shout out, like I mentioned, I was a Hollerado fan for a long time, and what I love that you guys do is you make really creative music videos. The art of the music video is something that unfortunately is dying, and it's now just about getting sponsorships and flashing the Pepsi cans in the right angles and stuff like that, which is a disgrace. But you guys did such a good job. I recommend everyone go check out your music video, So It Goes. One of my all-time favorite music videos, an incredible story that is worth the 9 minutes of watching that one. So that's one of my favorite ones for sure, Menno. But my question to you is similar to Ross's question, but on the music side. What's been your favorite place to play a show? Like when you're touring, what was the one venue or location that you were like, I wasn't really sure about this, but this blew me away?
Oh, that's really, really, really a tough question because every place is so different. Like, some places like, really suck harder than other ones and are really no fun to go to.
Like Toronto.
But, yeah, you know what? We had such a hometown crowd here from like spending
I'm just kidding.
That it really truly was amazing. Yep. It was really hard to crack you to Toronto. When you're first going, like everyone's just like looking at you with their arms crossed. Like, but once we finally did get it, they were so gracious and welcoming. Playing Ottawa was always incredible.
Favorite venue? Where's your favorite venue in Ottawa?
Oh, I mean, we used to play in Manotick at I don't know what it's called anymore. It used to be called Kelly's Pub. Now I think it's the Mill Tavern, like on the main street. Like the capacity is about 50 people, and we'd pack 100 in there, and they were some of the best shows we could imagine. But in Ottawa, we used to play the old Saw Gallery and the Bronson Center was our most recent places where we would play. Love them all, but you know what else stands out is Edmonton is a great rock and roll city. They really take it all the way. But I got to say the most memorable place that we ever played on all our travels was Moscow, Russia. What a strange and scary, horrible place. And we were opening for Sum 41. Okay. And there was about 6,000 people there. And it was an indoor venue. And people were lighting fires in the venue. Like, just absolutely terrifying, but very, very memorable.
Yeah, it's a little different over there in Russia, that's for sure.
Yeah.
That's awesome, Menno. Well, we appreciate you so much for jumping on with us today. Everyone, go give him a follow if you're not already on Instagram. How would you even say that? Mennovers on Instagram?
MENNOVERS.
There you go. Just spell it out for the people in the back like myself. And I want to hear everyone in the comments. Let us know where you've seen Menno perform before, because he mentioned a few spots in Ottawa, and I always like hearing the nostalgia, and it was great to get some nostalgia for you from visiting the Civic Center and all that, man. We got to do this again down the road, and it was a pleasure having you on the show today.
You guys really brought up a whole bunch of great memories, and it's a real pleasure learning from you.
Stick taps to Menno for joining us. Really fun conversation with him. And again, make sure you're following him on his social media platforms at Menovers. You can find him on Twitter and on Instagram there. Royal Mountain Music as well. Great, great content. I didn't realize he was in a band with Sam Roberts. Like that's a throwback name right there.
Yeah, not a big deal, that's for sure. And we had such a blast chatting with him, and we're definitely going to have him back on. Maybe we'll do a end-of-season report with him and see how he's feeling about the Sens going into the offseason, because that was a fun chat, and the Alfie story is all-time.
Absolutely. Thanks again, Menno, and appreciate you. And now we get to a game day. The Senators are hosting the New York Islanders, a team that has one win in their last 10 games. They're struggling. And let's start with their lines. Up front, Matt Barzal at the 1C position, in between Beauvillier and Cizikas, former Ottawa 67. The second line is Brock Nelson between Anders Lee and Kyle Palmieri. The third line, Jean-Gabriel Pageau, in between Zach Parise and Josh Bailey. And the fourth line, Atu Ratti, Matt Martin, and Simon Holmstrom. Talk about putting Atu Ratti in a position to succeed. Hey, Pills on defense, Alexander Romanov with Scott Mayfield, Pelech and Pulick, the classic shutdown pair there. And then we have Bolduc with Sebastian, no, not that, Aho. In goal, still no word whether it's Ilya Sorokin or Semyon Varlamov. Varlamov was a part of the Islanders' 4-1 win over the Senators in that weird 5:30 p.m. start, the night where Daniel Alfredsson was inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame. The Islanders are 23-21-5 on the season, but they're on a 5-game losing streak and have lost control of the final playoff spot in the Eastern Conference. Their leading scorer is Brock Nelson with 42 points in 49 games, tied with Matt Barzal. Pilsy, who's your locked-on player tonight or to look out for on the Islanders?
Well, I had to stop myself. I wanted to go with my guy, Atu Ratti. You guys know, if you followed us during the draft, that was the 2020 draft, right?
2021. Pilsy, you would have taken him at 10.
Yeah, I was interested in him at 10. He ends up going 42nd overall. I was all over this guy. But I'm not going to do that because he's only going to play 8 or 9 minutes, so I'll do someone with a little more impact here. I'm going to go with Kyle Palmieri, Ross, and this one may seem like a random one, but he's been injured for quite a while here, and we talked about the Islanders not really having any kind of snipers or like elite scorers, and yes, I know Kyle Palmieri is definitely on the downside of his career, but he is shooting at a 14.3% rate on the Islanders, and other than Cal Clutterbuck, that's the highest shooting percentage, and he's playing the point on the first power play unit. So this is a guy, yes, he's a little older, but you got to watch out for him as he still has an elite shot.
Is there a streakier player in the NHL than Matthew Barzal?
I mean, maybe not. Yeah, he is very streaky.
My goodness, only 1 assist and -7 in his last 8 games. I'm going with Matthew Barzal as my lookout player because at some point, the points have to come. They were coming fast and furious before this 8-game stretch where he has 1 assist. In the 7 games before, he had 7 goals and 10 points. Yeah. So now he's just gone ice cold. And with that, the team has also really struggled to put together. Remember last time when he came to Ottawa, all he was doing was getting assists on the way up. When he had 2 assists in Ottawa last game, they played against each other. That was his 18th assist of the season in only 17 games. Pilsy, he had 0 goals at that time of the season. So he's evened it out a little bit. He has 11 goals now in the season, but he has been struggling of late. And that salary is at $10 million. The cap hit's down at 7, but he's a guy who they need to be producing if they're going to get out of this funk. So I'm going to look out for Matthew Barzal, but I'm also going to make note, and as a goalie-friendly show, we have to. We're not sure if he's starting, but Ilya Sorokin gets absolutely no help. He might be the best goalie in the league. Like, he's that good. He's right on par with the Shesterkins, the Vasilevskis, the Hellebucks of the world, and he has nothing to show for it. I made note with Mike DiStefano. I was like, this guy is the Jake DeGrom of the NHL. He just throws amazing games, and he gets nothing to show for it.
Yeah, and plays for the blue and orange team in New York also. So that's interesting. But Ross, the reason Barzal is kind of in a slump recently is because he's a disher, and there's no one to dish it to. So we'll see. Palmieri was out for quite a while here, so we'll see if that helps. But yeah, I don't know. This Islanders team is very interesting to me, and they're gonna have to decide here whether they're gonna make a push to go for playoffs or whether they're gonna slip down into the void here. So this is a pivotal time in the season for the New York Islanders.
Meanwhile, for the Ottawa Senators, it's a time in the season, but it's also a very exciting game for Ridly Greig, his NHL debut. If you want a deeper discussion on Ridly Greig, the expectations around his call-up and what we expect from him going forward, then check out yesterday's Locked On Senators. But for now, we'll tell you that Tim Stützle is centering a top line with Brady Tkachuk and Mathieu Joseph. I don't know if Timmy and Joseph have ever been on the ice together at the same time at 5-on-5. We know it was Norris up with Tkachuk and Joseph to finish off last season. But then, obviously no Norris. We've got Ridly Greig in between Alex DeBrincat and Claude Giroux. Shane Pinto will center a line of Derek Brassard and Drake Batherson. And the one change from yesterday and the day before at practice is it will be Dylan Gambrell centering Parker Kelly and Austin Watson. Kastelic a little banged up, so he is unavailable for tonight's game. On defense, Thomas Chabot with Nick Holden, Jake Sanderson with Travis Hamonic, and Eric Brandstrom with Nikita Zaitsev. Cam Talbot did not skate this morning, which usually means that he will get the start. Anton Forsberg is the other option in goal. Still injured, Mark Kastelic, Josh Norris, Tyler Mott, and Artem Zub, although Tyler Mott did skate wearing a non-contact jersey, so hopefully his return is imminent. Pilsy, who is your locked-on player for tonight's game?
My locked-on player is going to be a guy who loves playing up against the New York Islanders, Ross. That is your guy, Claude Giroux. The New York Islanders are the team he has the most regular season points against in his entire career. In 65 games, he has 24 goals, 46 points, good for 70 points here. Or I think I said, no, let me read that again. 65 games, 24 goals, 46 assists, good for 70 points. I mixed that one up there. So Claude Giroux, this is a big game for him. It's up against a team he knows very well, and he's going to have to, I don't want to say play babysitter here because that's a bit of a stretch, but with Ridly Greig making his debut as a center and Alex DeBrincat, kind of a guy that's been trying to figure out his game, that's used to playing with Batherson, Giroux's going to have to do a lot of the work here. So I'm expecting a big one from him here, especially since he's going to be taking probably all the draws, Ross.
100%. Now, it's too easy for me to just say Ridly Greig. I think we're all going to be locked on to Ridly Greig. Hell, Pilsy and I saw the first ever game Ridly Greig wore a Sens jersey, and it was the goal of the year. We said at the end of the year, that was the best goal the Sens scored all year. He goes between the legs, backhand cheese. It was ridiculous, right in front of us. Our friend Ainsley McPhail took a photo of our reaction right away. It was our first time at a hockey game since COVID. Like, all the stars aligned to make that an amazing moment. Yeah. So we will, of course, be locked on to Ridly Greig, but I'm going to go with Mathieu Joseph. This guy's getting the opportunity of a lifetime where he went from healthy scratch. We don't know what happened, broke a team rule, did something, and now all of a sudden, boom, your first line. You're playing with Tim Stützle, Brady Tkachuk, the two best players on the team. What are you going to do with that opportunity? Because I think with the injury and the situation around his healthy scratch, it kind of took the attention away from the fact that he struggled this year.
Yep.
2 goals, 7 assists in 27 games. That's not the Mathieu Joseph that was scratching the surface. So hopefully playing up with these great players will allow him to have more opportunity. Will we see him on a power play unit tonight, Pilsy? Maybe. I don't know. I wouldn't mind giving him that opportunity. I think this next stretch of games, you should really figure out how you're going to fix Mathieu Joseph, because if you're management, you committed a 4-year contract to him. You didn't have to do that. They did. And now let's see how they can get him going. And I also, a secondary locked-on player. You know I love revenge games, Pilsy. We know Jean-Gabriel Pageau is on one side. Travis Hamonic, longtime New York Islander, has only played against them 6 times because he went from the Islanders out west. So he has never really had a chance to play much against them. 6 career games, 1 goal, 1 assist. So points per game-wise, that's got to be up top with how he's done against any team. But all jokes aside, he needs to have a big night because the rest of that right side of the D-core is Nick Holden and Nikita Zaitsev. So it's going to be a big pressure night and a lot of minutes coming up for Travis Hamonic. Give me a key to victory, Pills.
My key to victory for this game is I want the Ottawa Senators. We mentioned it a couple times. This team doesn't have a lot of elite snipers. Keep the Islanders wide. Don't let them come in, and don't let their big body guys like Anders Lee, Brock Nelson, don't let those guys crash the net and have chances at rebounds and stuff like that. Keep them wide. They don't have any people that really you're going to worry about just sniping one along the wing. Or hopefully not. Cam Talbot, hopefully that glove doesn't have any holes in it tonight. So that's my big key is just don't allow them to crash into the middle and crash the net, because I feel like that's where the New York Islanders are going to have success. Keep them wide, let Talbot see everything, and I think this team has a shot to win.
The Islanders' power play is absolutely atrocious. So
bad.
I'm thinking about going somewhere there. Only the Nashville Predators, Columbus Blue Jackets, and Montreal Canadiens are worse than the 16.4% conversion rate for the New York Islanders. Get this, Pillsy. The Senators are almost double that. They're up at 26.3%. So they're closer to double than they are to where the Islanders are here, as the Senators sit fourth in the National Hockey League. So special teams have to be special. But to give you something else, I know the Islanders have always been known as that identity of being physical, tough to play against, right? I don't want to get into a slugfest with the Islanders where it's just all like bunched up, just hit everything. Like, try to actually play your game. The Senators lineup tonight, especially with no Kastelic as well, they're predicated on speed. So play with speed. Don't try to get caught up on finishing every single check when realistically, on paper, I think the Sens are the better team. And even with the D-core the way it is, at least up front, they're the better team. Like on the back end, Pelech and Pulock probably give the Islanders the edge with their ability. But overall, I think you're looking. And is Dobson hurt, by the way? Like, where's Noah Dobson?
I think he's day-to-day is what Daily Faceoff has him as.
Okay, because he's a great player, and he would be a difference maker in this game. But I think that on paper, I like the Senators in this game. Now, of course, if Ilya Sorokin's in, he can steal points by himself.
But Varlamov did the same, Ross.
Yeah, fair enough. But I think you just have to be the better team. And it sounds so simple, but coming off 5-1 loss to the Jets on Saturday at home and then just sitting around for 3 days, you know what my key to victory is? Play mad. Like, don't get – I'm kind of contradicting myself because I don't want that anger to just turn into
yeah, what are we doing here?
But no, like, have some pride. Like, you've been blown out in back-to-back games. Like push back. Have a little pushback. Score some – hey, here's a crazy one. Score a couple even-strength goals. How about that?
What? Come on, Ross. Let's not get too wild here.
These Ottawa Senators, yeah, let's do it. Let's get crazy tonight. Postcast coming up after the game. Williams Martian will join Pilsy. I got to be on the clock tonight. Ah, boy. But the boys will have you all covered after this game. Are you confident? Where's your confidence level going into tonight?
I mean, the Sens are going up against a team that has one win in their last 10 games. Like, you would think this would be the time that they can bounce back here. But at the same time, I really think the New York Islanders is going to put it all on the line here. This is a veteran group. They play with a lot of pride. They're not out of it yet, so they can't allow themselves to lose games up against teams that are out of it, that being your Ottawa Senators are out of it. So I think we're going to see a big pushback here, Ross. I think this is going to be a close game, but if you're asking me if I'm confident that the Sens can win, not really.
All right, there's the confidence level we all need going into this Wednesday. Kind of a cool note as well. Ridley Greig, NHL debut. It's his dad's birthday today. So that's a nice little fatherly birthday. Gets to see his son play in the National Hockey League. Ridley Greig, one of the greatest interviews, too, because he's just so nonchalant. Awesome. It's great. So if you want to learn more about the kid, we've had him on twice. You can go on our YouTube channel or search up the podcast, the Ridley Greig interview. We had him on when he was in the WHL bubble. After, and then we had him on again after the preseason. And some people were asking, isn't he suspended for a game? We thought so too, but Pierre Dorion said during training camp that he served it. So I don't know if it was on paper for one game last year or
no, it was. They brought him up. Remember, they brought him up and we were all like, oh, wow, he's going to get a shot here. And then Dorion's like, no, this is just to cover his suspension here.
I forget that anyways, but
it was a weird moment. Yeah.
There you go. So now Ridley Greig cleared to play. NHL debut on deck. And like you said, we will be breaking it all down tonight in the postcast. Thanks to Menno Versteeg for joining us. Guys, go check out this guy's music. It's actually elite stuff. Not only his old stuff with Hollerado, but he's got the new band going right now with Sam Roberts, a couple other guys involved. So go check that out wherever you get your music, and we will see you tonight in the postcast. For Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan, and this has been the Locked On Senators podcast. Your team every day.